Hi, welcome to another episode of Silver Fox Scotland, and there is panic stations in the Justice Department at Holyrood. Angela Constance is being urged to look again at trans prisoners in the women's estate. It's been pointed out, quite rightly too, I think, by Human Rights Commission, the Scottish Human Rights Commission, that having a man in a woman-only prison breaches the human rights of each and every single woman prisoner in that prison, and that they will all, each and individually, be able to sue the Scottish Government for breaching those human rights. It could be a class action on each case. So if you've got three men pretending to be women in a woman's prison, they would go each one at a time. Every woman in that prison would sue the Scottish Government 3 times, one for each man. This could end up costing Scotland billions of pounds. This is how serious they're taking it. They're saying that it is breaching human rights law by allowing a biological man to be placed in a women-only jail. Now, of course, the SNP brought this policy in because they wanted to show that men can be women if we all pretend hard enough. And then Bryson, a male rapist, went into a woman's prison, was locked up with women. Oh dear, didn't go down well, didn't sit well with just about anyone who's not completely mentally ill. And so he had to be removed from his lady prison and put into a man's prison. But he's had to be segregated because the men in that prison are really wanting to get hold of him because they don't like him and they want to show him what being a woman is all about, apparently. So he's being sort of put in a sectioned area so that he can be kept safe. But now, as I say, the Scottish Human Rights Commission is saying, no, any male, and there are still several, being kept in the women's prisons breaches their human rights. Now, of course, it was the whole Isle of Bryson case that forced the SNP to rip up their initial policy because they realised then, it made them look bad. The optics were terrible. But, they sent him to Cornton Vale, which is a ladies' prison, rather than where he ought to be, which is E-Block in Barlinnie. But it highlighted this problem, and the outcry from the people was loud, and they eventually heard it. But they only moved him. I think there was one other they moved as well. But there's still several, an unknown number, but at least 3 men in women's prisons. And of course, all this was the start of the downfall for Nicola Sturgeon. She still couldn't call him a her. She kept saying, so this rapist, well, let's call him the criminal. No, this rapist, this raper of women. And she couldn't even call this guy a rapist because in Scottish law, rape can only be committed by a man. And so if they could get Nicola to say he was a rapist, then they say, well, you're saying he's a man then, because Scottish law is it can only be a man. And she got caught out anyway because, she couldn't maintain it with a straight face. But anyway, it says that the new guideline states that a transgender woman or man will not be eligible to be considered for admission or transferred to a woman's prison if they've been convicted of serious offences, including murder, assault, robbery, abduction, rape and sexual harassment. But this includes a loophole, of course. It means that they can be transferred if there's a compelling evidence that they do not present an immediate, unacceptable risk of harm. So it could be someone who's actually raped and murdered a woman, or even several women, who then decides, no, I'm a lady, I did it because I'm a man. And then because the idiots that run the system say, oh, but he's a lady now. Look, everybody really, really think, oh, yeah, he's a woman. And then they put him in with women. What happens next? Well, what do you think's going to happen? And so they want it banned. And they're saying it absolutely destroys these women's safety, which is paramount. And so it goes against their human rights. Bada bing. Sue. Get suing. Now, the SPS, the Scottish Prison Service, will not confirm how many men pretending to be women are in the women's prisons, but we know it's at least 3, as I say, but they stopped publishing how many due to the bad publicity and the fears of being made to look ridiculous or sued. But there we go. And they say, but it's got a gender recognition certificate. Yes, and a cock. You're going to lock him up with a vulnerable woman in a cell all night. Excellent idea. If I think the only way you can get around this is to say, yes, okay, you can be treated as a woman and put in a women's prison if your cock is lying in a jar in a doctor's office. Let's see how many of them really want to go to a women's prison then. Thanks very much. Bye.